Welcome to the latest edition of First State Kopites podcast. Delighted to be joined by a relatively new member of the Delaware Sports Club, Sean Costello. We've got also our other Sean O'Neill, who's joining us from Anfield, it looks like. And then Hytham from Chicago sporting a brand new third shirt, which looks pretty awesome, actually. And then we've got Daz, who's in Baltimore, and I think he's Smaltimore is actually his background. So welcome, everybody. This is a podcast for Liverpool supporters in Delaware and friends of Liverpool supporters in Delaware. Thanks for listening on your preferred platform. We are available on all of those things and on YouTube. I did notice that on YouTube last week we got a lot of hits, which was pretty unfortunate because it probably wasn't our best ever video performance. But anyway, keep looking on YouTube if that's where you are. This is season 3, episode 7. We are recording it on September 19th, day after Liverpool beat Crystal Palace 3-0. Pretty full week. We also beat Milan 3-2 on Wednesday night. We're going to do 2 things today, basically. We're going to talk to Sean Costello, that is, about his Liverpool story, how he became a Liverpool fan, and how he's ended up hanging out with some of the shady people at Catherine Rooney's, watching games. And then we'll review the week gone by. And then if we have time, which we don't usually, we'll maybe look ahead to that really important EFL game against Norwich and actually the slightly more important Premier League game away at Brentford on Saturday. So we'll start with you, Sean. How did you become a Liverpool fan in the first place?
Yeah, so kind of interesting. Obviously, growing up, there wasn't a ton of opportunity to watch a lot of games, but I played quite a bit, and I ended up going to the University of Rhode Island to play soccer. And when I got there, the majority of the team was international. 9 of our 11 starters were from somewhere outside the United States, quite a few from Europe, and everyone had a team. Everybody had a team. And I quickly realized that I need to do some research and figure out who I wanted to root for. At the time there were still video games, so I was obviously playing. It was either Winning 11 or FIFA or one of those games, and I really enjoyed watching Steven Gerrard when I had the opportunity, but also playing Michael Owen at the time, Jimmy Carragher. So that was around 99, 2000, and obviously they were starting to have quite a bit of success during that time. And I just kind of started following them, and a lot of my teammates had different teams, so it was fun to kind of go back and forth with them. But then I just fell in love with watching them play. I started getting the ability to watch more games. So that was kind of how I started rooting for Liverpool. But it's been a journey since then. Like I got a chance to go over there a little bit and see Anfield and watch a Leicester City play in a friendly against Sunderland. And it was just the atmosphere I loved. So became a quick, hard fan.
So alluding to something we'll probably talk about later in the show, it would have been hard to be a City fan then, based on atmosphere. Just giving a clue as to one of the later topics we might talk about. So everyone else tee up your questions. But so how about your favorite Liverpool memory?
Yeah, so I guess, I have a couple, 2 quick ones where, I obviously said I was in Anfield. That was an amazing experience, getting the opportunity to tour the stadium and be there. One was getting to see them play again during the pandemic, like on television when everything was shut down. I thought was a really cool, somewhat emotional thing when you got all of a sudden we weren't able to watch a whole lot of sports. There wasn't a whole lot going on, and then really lived for those moments when they came on. I think those are probably my 2 favorite. There's one, the Champions League final. Obviously, the game itself was great, but my wife and I went to Gettysburg that morning. We're kind of history buffs and wanted to go check it out and see it. So we had to find a pub to watch the game in, and we wandered into this place called Blue and Gray, or Gray and Blue. It's right on the circle there around Gettysburg College, and it was a huge Liverpool supporters fan club. And it was like total, somewhat luck. We looked it up and we found that they were showing the game there. We walked in, and everyone turned around, and similar to, kind of at Rooney's, they all knew each other. And here come myself, my wife walking in our Liverpool kits. And everyone was like, "Who are you?" And they ended up buying us drinks the rest of the day because they were just excited that we found their pub and joined them. I thought that was a really cool experience.
That's great. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the couple of sports clubs that I've been to where there was a kind of weird vibe reception. Anyway, that's yeah. Sorry, that would be a big tangent to go on, which we don't do big tangents. We just do small tangents. So, anyone else have a question?
What position do you play?
Well, before I got to Rhode Island, I played center mid and was not good enough to play that position there. We were actually, we won the Atlantic 10 while I was there, and had quite a few good, very good players. Actually, one of our captain at the time, Gareth Elliott, is now their head men's coach at URI. He's from Belfast. Great guy and really good coach. He coached at Siena for a couple of years up in upstate New York, and they actually last night, shout out to them, they just beat the number 22 team VCU last night, which was a great win for them. So he's doing really well. They moved me to outside mid, but I redshirted while I was there. I didn't actually get any minutes because I wasn't as good as the other guys that were in front of me. I needed a couple of years to develop. I actually ended up transferring at the end of the year just to get on the field. Really good experience there. Just wasn't going to play a whole lot, to be honest. And finished up at the University of Scranton, where I did get to play center midfield, which was great.
Yeah, I was just, so right now you manage the turf fields up in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all. Just
yeah, sure. Yeah, so I've coached and played for the majority of my life, both soccer and basketball. But I got an opportunity to leave the Shipley School, which is where I was at for a long time, coaching the girls soccer team, and manage Maple Zone Sports Institute, which is a huge turf complex. A lot of soccer fields, baseball fields, lacrosse fields. We run tournaments. There's kids running around there all the time playing. It's a cool job to have because you can just kind of step out onto the balcony and there's just soccer fields everywhere, which is a cool part of the gig for sure. But I do miss coaching quite a bit because although I have soccer fields around me, once you get kicked up to the management, I don't get a whole lot of time on the field anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Cool.
So my favorite thing about Maple Zone is it's really close to the Two Stones Brewing. For reference, very fine beer from.
Then this is another shameless plug. We're Two Stones is actually a vendor we're having an Oktoberfest there, October 16th, and Two Stones is one of the confirmed vendors.
That's cool.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna have to wear the green jersey like Bayern yesterday? The green kit.
For the Oktoberfest.
I'd love one. Yeah.
So I got 2 questions for you. They're related. Your favorite player of all time. You know, I'm not worried about others, but amongst the Liverpool players, and who is your favorite player nowadays?
Right now, I think definitely Steven Gerrard. I know that's probably such an easy a pick, but he kind of is what brought me to like Liverpool in the first place, seeing him play when he was younger. And, I love the documentary. I'm not sure if you've seen I don't know if it's on Netflix or HBO or whatever it's on. It was just really cool to see him grow up and how loyal he stayed to the club, and how he was just tenacious. He played so hard. But then obviously he had some screamers for goals that were just, I still watch on YouTube highlights every now and then. In terms of now, it's interesting. I talk about this a lot with some of my friends, and I'm not sure. Like, I love Mo Salah. I don't relate to him because I didn't have his speed. I didn't take people on. I think I'm more in awe of him. I love Sadio. Love watching Sadio play. I think he's so integral to what we do. But I actually have I guess I would say Virgil is my favorite player now. I have a Virgil jersey on right now. Just love how cool and collective he is. And I think what he's done for the club, I mean, you could see when he went down, he just covers a lot of things that could potentially go wrong. I think everyone just feels a bit better with him being back there. So I think Virgil, but I have so much respect and awe for Sadio and Mo.
It is probably worth mentioning, because we might have done this later, that yesterday was his 50th game in Anfield, and he's never lost.
Hey, that was my stat.
Oh.
Straight did check, you bastard.
There's tons of stats out there. I'm sure we could come up with.
Just happened to pick the one that I put in there.
You could do the XG.
No, I can't.
I think it was 100th for Liverpool. Not 100th for Liverpool, and he only lost 7 or 8.
Oh, Virgil?
I think he's lost 8. Yeah,
Yeah.
and one of them was the first match, and one of them was that fluke Aston Villa match. And I think the vast majority of the other ones, he was being partnered by one of our favorite players that's no longer at the club anymore.
So Sean Costello, Sean O'Neill has a thing about Deja and Lovren, just to be clear. That's all.
I'm much more mentally I don't know, secure now that I don't have that worry in the back of my head anymore watching Liverpool play.
You're in a better
Virgil has led us through purgatory, and when he went missing, we ended up in hell.
That's a great point. Yeah, good line.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Shouts out to Joel Matip though. But let's move on. So
wait, hold on. Is it Joel or is it Joel? Because it feels like that this is going to end up in fisticuffs eventually.
No, I think either of those are okay. I think the issue with is the Matip.
So depending on how well you've played, it's either Paul or Powell.
I'd be fine with that. But I'd have a problem with Garskel. That was
Gascolino.
See, that
I think it's Joel, by the way.
Joel.
I thought so as well. And is it Matip or Matip?
Matip, I think. So my Senegalese friend told me it's Matip.
And in Germany, Matip?
Well, it's definitely not Martip or whatever that. Anyway,
because it just gets brutalized quite frequently, and depending who the commentator is.
Yeah, the
tangents we're talking about.
Yeah,
I've lived it all my life, so I can relate.
So, big tangent we went on. Okay, let's come back. Sean, final thing before we start to talk about this week, and maybe we'll get time to talk about what's going forward. So hesitant to ask you this now that Daz kind of said, like, what kind of stupid question is that? But it's like, so what's your experience of being part of because you just kind of started watching Liverpool with the Delaware Supporters Club. Distinctly, we were having some event in the street, and you were like, you walked up with your wife, and like, oh, what is this? I have no idea who these people are. Anyway, so
we were driving by, and I made my wife pull over, and we parked in the lot so I could figure out what was going on, because we had literally just moved to the neighborhood. We had typically gone down and watched the games in Philadelphia. So we were going to Victoria Freehouse quite a bit, and another corner pub, Black Taxi in Fairmount, which has a decent Liverpool following. And I kind of walked up. I think it was your end of the year party, and I introduced myself and made sure I got myself on a mailing list, and I've had a great time. I'm actively recruiting right now. I've even brought 2 guys that I wouldn't even say they don't know a ton about the game, but they enjoy a good day out, and I figure if we can get a few more fans to love the game and join Liverpool ranks, it'll be a good experience. But I've loved it. We had a really good time. I actually even made it out to the Champions League match, which is midweek. I ducked out of work a little bit early. Hope the boss isn't watching, but it was a great experience.
Very few viewers. You're fine.
That was I was there for that. I remember, and it was a hot day, and I picked up my scarf that day, and we took the picture. I had the scarf on, and Daz pointed out that there's always one of those that wears a scarf.
Hey, look, someone's got a scarf on the face of the sun.
I didn't see. I missed that completely. How did I miss that? Right. So apart from certain people running around the bar when goals are scored, you're feeling very comfortable then, having.
I love it. Like I said, I've enjoyed it so much. I'm trying to get other people in there. it adds to the game, doesn't it? I mean, I could obviously watch in my living room, but it's fun to watch it with people that shared interest and passion about the game. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Drinking a beer in your bedroom at 7:30 in the morning is way more frowned upon than with 25 other people also drinking.
That's right. That's right.
Let me
I was
dig
going to
in.
say the Guinness helps too. So that's the. I don't have a Guinness draft at my house, so.
Let me dig in deeper. Who's your favorite Delaware Odyssey Delaware member so far?
Oh, man.
So far, my wife.
Yeah.
My wife.
Oh, awesome answer. Oh,
Great answer. Great answer.
That was a hell of a punt.
Thank you.
Kicked it out of the stadium.
Yeah.
yeah. Don't ask me that question, by the way.
There's a Simon Mignolet on the ball, huh?
As a complete tangent, I should tell you, my sister lives in Perth, Australia, and some guy showed up playing for Perth Glory, who you've probably never heard of, who, like, his big credentials were he played half his career at Liverpool. Like, who could this be? Any guesses?
Cool.
Goalkeeper. Brad Jones.
Brad
Jones, yeah.
Who apparently played
yeah.
11 times in 5 years for Liverpool. But anyway,
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
really,
The one that he led in the back post against, was it United?
that's so funny.
He let a howler in. I was like,
Yes.
But he was on the Australian national team.
It was.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was Tim Cahill. But he was good.
Timmy. Yeah. So I know a lot about Australian football team because my sister lives there. But anyway, she had not heard of him, and she's like, "Why is he talking up his Liverpool credentials?" Well, he was on the books. I think that's about the limits of it. Anyway, how did we get down that tangent? Let's talk about this last week. 2 wins. Couldn't have asked for more. I think last weekend when we talked, that was kind of our aspiration. And three
wins this week. We had 3 wins in a week.
We did. Although we did talk on Monday, so I wasn't. Yeah. Yes. In what, 7 days? It's pretty awesome. So I'm going to go around and we're going to talk. Perhaps let's start with the Milan game. Champions League was back. My shirts are supposed to can indicate a progression for us. 4 stars, 5 stars, 6 stars. Would love to get to 7. Milan was really a proper game, but it looked like we were going to overwhelm them for a while. Don't know who wants to go first, but 3-2 was much closer, I think, than it really was. I'll start with you, Sean Costello, because it's your guest. So, yeah,
I starting to watch the game. I felt like we were going to overwhelm them. I was texting my friends like, man, we look really good right now. This is we're kind of flying high, and only getting 1 is my only worry with us sometimes is we knock on the door so often, and if we only sneak in 1 or we don't get a goal and it gets to half, that I get really nervous for the second half, just for a breakdown or a counter opportunity. And then those 2 goals at like the blink of an eye before the half, I was as low gets. And I actually hadn't quite made it to Rooney's yet. I said, I'll see you the second half. So I got there and it was 2-1, and I was just kind of like, oh my goodness. But great recovery, obviously. So, but the starts, we start really fast. I just would love to see us sneak an early goal in every now and then and kind of cement that second one.
Yeah. I mean, I think there were several moments in the first 20 minutes where it could easily have gone in a completely different direction, which would have been good for Milan. I was inspired after watching them play against us to watch them this afternoon against Juventus, which just ended like half an hour before I think we started recording, and they were all over Juventus. I mean, they looked much the better team, which was very reassuring based on our experience with them. What were your takeaways, Daz, from the Milan game?
This is one of the sweary ones. Can we swear?
Oh, yeah, I just have to click an extra box. It's good.
That were fucking good. That was as a consummate performance as I've seen in any European match. And I granted, like, you can say what you want. They may be more a name than they are a force now, but still, that was dominant. It was absolutely dominant. The only misstep was Mo missing the penalty. I think if that had gone in, that game would have ended a lot more ugly than it did. And I'll stake my hat and my last 2 hairs on that. But sometimes, I think to Sean's point, sometimes that's what happens to us, is like chance after chance goes begging, and teams start to build up like a little bit of strength from that. Like, it's not that bad. Their bark's worse than their bite, and they get like a jammy goal. And in the past, actually maybe last season, but seasons before that, we just steamroll. And I just got the sense, and I think I said this to you on our group chat, is like, we're going to win this at halftime. There was no doubt in my mind that we'd come back and we'd beat them. They just couldn't live with us. Like, in the space of 5 minutes, they got 2. They took the goals really well, don't get me wrong, but it was like a comedy of errors that led to them. And I think that Klopp said something to that effect, is like, it's almost like they got too much into their own performance. Like, they're playing their own game and not worrying about the other team. And it came back to bite us. It was just like, it was a real comedy of errors, especially for the second one. There was a lack of a press. There was a mispress. Then the ball that was played through hit Joel Matip, and like landed, like it actually ended up being a better ball to the person that latched onto it than put it across. And then Robbo, when he tried to clear it, I'm like, just welly it. And it got stuck under him, and then it just was on the line. The guy could have knocked it in with his hat. But I think we were by far the better team, and it's just good to see, because that game on game, we just seem to be getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
I think there is a thing about being too much on top.
Yeah.
I think in that game, like you probably all listened to some Anfield Rap stuff about this game, but they talked about how the Salah penalty was at the 13th minute, and at that point it could have been 2, could have been 3 already. Yeah. So Hytham, I don't know where you watched the game, but Champions League, so far so good.
Yeah, I watched the game. It was, I don't think I have much to add to what everyone said, but the whole time, even when we were down 2, just based on, the experience from the past 2 seasons, we always tend to have one bad game at home. Even last year, when the team was not doing well, we still lost to Atlanta, I think. But I understood it was, first Champions League match, and we needed to do well. But overall, I'm with Daz. We looked so good. And again, I wasn't worried when we went down, when they scored the first one, and then a minute and a half later, they scored the second one. So overall, to be honest, I enjoyed the drama, and I know we're going to talk about the Premier League match later on, but there was kind of similar drama per se. But overall, I enjoyed it tremendously. I loved the one item that I loved the most was the fact that Virgil did not play when he was rested. Not only Virgil, but a couple other players. So I love where things are going with the depth. So that was the start of it. It was our first time kind of seeing how the depth of the team is going to manifest, and there wasn't a drop in, a huge drop in performance. So it was all positive to me. When the goals went in, and it was kind of a little bit not devastating, but got down a little bit. But you just take a deep breath and continue to watch, and they came back and won.
They did. So many things. So lots of things I loved, actually, because I believe that so from people I know who were there, the crowd was incredibly loud. It felt like a European night. That was big. I think the 5 minutes at the end that Milner just chewed up with doing whatever he was doing, it felt very like Barcelona-like. If you remember that last 5 minutes of that game.
Yeah. It was like deja vu.
Yeah,
exactly.
and the crowd chanting Divock Origi. Wow, probably not going to happen at some other clubs. Arsenal, Man City, name them, but lots of things. So Sean, I know we watched the match together and we talked about a lot of things. What was the thing that you took away from the game?
There was a lot. I thought it was an awesome match. It was a really enjoyable one. It's kind of like one of those, I don't know, it lived up to the Champions League hype, I thought. With, I think it was the first time AC Milan played at Anfield. Because most of the time when we've met them, it's been finals. And I think people are kind of downplaying this Milan team, like you were saying, Paul. I mean, they finished last year strong. I think they were second in Serie A, and they're one of the favorites to win it this year. It's just that there aren't as many recognizable names in their team, but they have a very strong team. I thought we absolutely dominated them for the beginning of the match. I thought Origi played, probably the best he's played since the Champions League final. He looked very strong, and I think it was. I think it was a great match. Are you hearing the background? Sorry.
We just did that.
Yeah. So it was a great match. It was a great finish with Henderson scoring the winner. It was great to be at the pub to watch it too. It was a good experience.
So the only thing I might correct you on is I think Divok's last best performance was against the Everton in the 5-2. That was he's pretty awesome in that game. The chip.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
Yeah. But it's been a while. It's been a while. But
the one thing I would say is that I thought we kind of we were dominant, like you said, and then we just kind of collapsed for that 5 minutes at the end of the first half. We kind of clearly cleaned that up at halftime, and then came out and I don't think we were quite as dominant in the second half as we were in the opening 30, but we really controlled the match, and it was, just very kind of professional performance in the second half. But it was a good one.
We haven't even mentioned Hendo's finish yet. My God, that was glorious, wasn't it?
Right. I mean, and that was the highlight. It was. I mean, that finish was. We all jumped up. It was a fun time to be there. It was a good experience. And Mo's goal was exciting too. In that period in the opening, it was actually later. Jota had that one that was he was right in front of goal. Could have easily scored. We had a lot of other opportunities where we could have scored, and that was the thing. When we went into half down 2-1, it just felt so off. I mean, it didn't. We completely dominated the vast majority of the half, and to go down 2-1, it just felt very off. But we kind of went back and just came back out, controlled the game. So it was just a great Champions League night.
It was, and I think the thing that the whatever it is, the underlying rubber stamp, whatever, was the fact that the other two teams, Atletico and Porto, drew, which now makes it just that little bit easier to qualify. So, I'm going to move on to talk about the Palace game. Arguably, Palace caused us as many problems as Milan did, but I thought there was some awesome performances in that game. I'll go around in the same order. What's your biggest memory of the game, Sean Costello, about the Palace game? I know it's only 24 hours.
I think it has to do around what a couple of you guys already talked about, is the depth of the squad. I used to be so fearful. I know someone talked about Deja earlier, but I'd be so fearful when someone would come into the lineup that I didn't think was as strong, or I thought did some things a little bit differently than maybe the style of the team. And I get excited now when I see changes in the lineup, because it's like an opportunity to see some guys that do need the work, and potentially, if they get more and more time, eventually we'll be seeing more minutes. So, I mean, like Naby scoring, I thought was awesome. First of all, another unbelievable strike, but I'd love to see him get some time in some of those games where maybe he can grow into it a bit more. And I love Curtis Jones, and he's been coming in up top, I think, because of some injuries and depth issues right now. But he was really good for us in the midfield. And, it's just his situation. It's a numbers game now where, he's not in that first three consistently enough. But I personally thought Millie was unbelievable at right back. And I think he may have knowing our depth in the back there, we kind of have our three, we have four central. We kind of had that left. He could kind of fall into that, which would be really nice to be able to spell Trent on the outside. So I think that's the biggest takeaway for me from the game is I just really enjoyed watching when guys got their numbers called, them stepping in and contributing.
Yeah, I think so. From my perspective, I thought it was interesting that Milner, Henderson, and Salah, when we had the ball, were not doing too many different things from when Trent, Elliott, and Salah were playing down that side, which I'm guessing we're going to see more of. I think one of the things probably worth mentioning is that we played Palace less than 72 hours after we played Milan. Palace hadn't played a game. Big potential given the crowd was really up for the Milan game. I know it was the 3:00 kickoff against Palace, but Palace aren't exactly, I don't know, they're not going to drive the enthusiasm of the crowd in quite the same way. So going to go to Daz in terms of his perspective on the game yesterday.
So my favorite thing about this current Liverpool team is they eventually make bellends out of all of us. Because I can only imagine the number of people who were absolutely in their own arse about the fact that James Milner, and I texted this to you, I didn't put anything on it, but I said, last time you played against Soho, you got sent off in right back position. And I'll tell you what, the old expression, built like a brick shithouse, James Milner is just the purest distillation of shithouse. Like, he's just so very, very good at it. And I was listening to the Anfield Rap as you do, and Adam Smith said he'd put a large bet on the fact that he thought that James Milner was going to get a yellow card in that game. And he said, Madeline, he just refused to do it. And I'm like, he did everything he possibly could to pick up a yellow card in that match. Madeline's like, not today. Not Adam Smith not getting any money today.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was a consummate performance from him. It really was. And again, I think that's the midfield that we all really expect to see. And we're like, yeah, that's our starting midfield. And like Sean was saying, like, it's those three. They're going to put Curtis in and try something different. It's going to be boring. You know what we're going to get. And I think, again, what's most exciting about that is Curtis kind of slotted seamlessly in everywhere that he went. Yeah. He's such a direct player. He loves to go at people. He's such a technically gifted player, and you can see that the size of the bollocks on that kid. What's he, 20 years old? And he's like, give me the ball. I'm going to go around. I'm going to try to go around everyone. And he gets a ball taken away from him. I'm going to try and beat that guy again until he gets it right. It can be maddening sometimes, but just how much confidence he has in himself it's just nice to see, like, this team. I don't know, I haven't talked much about the game. It's more about my 30,000 foot view of what this team looks like. It's fun to see. I get the same feelings that I did from the 1920 season. Just kind of like that overall calm, and what a huge difference it makes to have a crowd in there, a crowd in the stadium. It just, like, my hairs go up in the back of my neck sitting at home listening to it sometimes, just like how it erupts and you can feel like the crescendo rising. I love that. Again, I thought Konate he grew in strength from minute to minute. I think he actually got a foot on that ball when Eduardo almost got around him, and ultimately it did require the save, but he got there. And he's a big kid, man. He's an absolute unit. Yeah. And I think that standing next to Virg he's only going to go from strength to strength. Tsimikas, I thought, he's also kind of a gnarly little player, isn't he? Like, he's definitely, he hasn't quite perfected shithousery as Milner has, but he's like a senior statesman in the shithouse Olympics. So give him time, he'll get there. Sometimes it's really tough to enjoy a Liverpool game while you're watching it, just because there's so much expectation around it. But even when they had their opportunities, there was the one where what's his face, Gallagher miscontrolled it in front of net, and if he had a better control, it probably would have put it in the bottom corner. Same with Eduardo, like he miscontrolled it when he was by himself on the back post. That was the only mistake I saw James Milner make. Like, he stayed outside instead of coming in and picking up the closest threat. But yeah, and again, I don't think Palace, they're not the Hodgson of team of yore. I think that this team that'll place a lot better than it did. They beat, which is effectively a pretty poor Spurs side. We saw that again today, but they resoundingly thrashed them.
Yeah.
So this is not a team of mugs anymore. And we went out, and it was very cultured. I think at one stage we had like 85% of the possession for like 5-minute stretch.
The first time.
We're getting to the point now where we're building up enough steam to start throttling teams.
Mm.
And we do have those like iffy 5 minutes where we almost need to reset. And so teams will come onto us, and in our own heads, it's way worse than it ever is. These guys are still eating their ham sandwiches in the back there, filling out the New York Times crossword. It's like, we got this. And it's good to see. It's good to see all that happening again. Like I said, I get very similar vibes to the 1920 season.
Yeah.
And I've spoken.
Crowds is big. My favorite James Milner moments of all of those was where he whacked the ball at Gallagher. It's like, not putting up with this.
That was overdue.
You floppy head git.
I found it amusing that they're like, where was he supposed to go? It's like, how about 10 yards away? Isn't that the rule?
I remember Coutinho to routinely get yellow cards for standing in front of a ball.
He did. Yes, sorry. Things that bother me, which shouldn't, but I did enjoy the whole of the James Milner performance.
And then how angry he got afterwards when someone had something to say to him. His face is like,
yeah. I didn't have to apologize for language. I don't know, but they probably should have done. So Hytham, I'll go to you next. I'm going to ask Sean about XG. I'll ask you about what we'll take from the game. We less than 72 hours later, I think no surprise that some of the players might have been, like Fabinho, for example, played a lot of football, might have been sort of, looking for places to sort of take a break. But I mean, if you look at the complete performance, although I would say one thing, usually when I watch matches back, knowing the result, I'm usually like, we were so in control. I watched this game back and it was like, wow, Palace had a lot of the ball in that second half until we scored that second goal. Your take, Hytham?
I enjoyed it. Again, just like the game from this past, from midweek. I'm starting to love drama, by the way. Because with drama, you can actually see processes being worked on. So, for example, the first, 5 to 10 minutes, there were like a few mistakes by the defense, and you could see, some of them it was luck, some of them it was Allison that saved us. But then you kind of like watch the things get into the flow of the match, and things are in control. So I enjoy that piece of it. Right before the podcast, I watched. I think there's a video on YouTube that LFC has put up of Mane's 100 goals for Liverpool, basically, because yesterday's was his 100. And I mean, his goals are amazing. You guys know, the first one was that one against Arsenal, where he ended up jumping on Klopp's back after he scored. But it's amazing how, watching those goals and comparing his attempts last season and seeing that he's starting to get back to himself. I don't think his hair is going to grow back unless he has, some procedure. But just watching that, I think is something, like the chip yesterday, the rebound from the volley and the chip. I think if it were last year, he would have probably shanked it, missed it, or whatever. But it's just it's good seeing him go, just kind of going back to his old self and scoring. And it's going to take time, but it's absolutely wonderful to watch. Last thing I was going to say about Gallagher, because you guys mentioned him, it just feels like to the British media or commentators and all of them, he seems to be the new hot boy Grealish type of whatever, because I was just tired after 5 minutes of all the praise, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, he can pass the ball, so I can pass the ball. I can do the same thing, or anyone could. So that was kind of annoying.
Awesome. Actually, my daughter said to me, it was great there was so much noise in the pub. I didn't have to listen to the commentary. So I missed. I only heard it on the version back, and it's like this was not an even game, And now I'm going to turn to Sean because our XG was over 3, and theirs was not even 1, right?
Yeah.
So even though they looked dangerous at some points, that's a game we should have won.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we were definitely the better team. I do think that they got some good chances in on us, though, especially, I think kind of earlier and then late. It's the first time that back four played together, so I think they were a little shaky at times. But I thought Konate actually played pretty well. There were 1 or 2 times that he made a mistake, but he recovered from pretty much all of them. So I thought that was good to see. He kind of seems pretty calm for a defender, his age, and to have a debut like that. Obviously, it helps to have Virgil next to you. But the thing that I wanted to mention is that we've been dominant on set pieces, which hasn't been talked about a lot. And in this match, you think about what it's like now for the opposing team to see, Virgil and Matip or Virgil and Konate coming into the box for a set piece. It's almost like you got to be kidding me. Yeah, I thought the goal, Mane's goal, was really good. That not as easy as some might think. That kind of finish is, I think, what we're used to seeing from him, but it is kind of the type that he might miss last year. But kind of to be running away from the goal, to turn yourself and then to kind of strike that the way he did. I thought that was a good sign. But yeah, I mean, we definitely deserved to win the match. But I do think we were shaky in parts. But at the end of the day, we're creating so many chances and we're creating so many shots. We could have scored a lot more too. So I think I actually thought Fabinho had a very good game. I think he's been great this past week. Kind of to wrap up the week with those 3 wins. As long as, from my point of view, as long as we have that spine of Virgil, Ali, and Fab, and then Salah, we're going to beat almost anybody. So, I wasn't really worried, although it probably, like, a 3-1 probably would have been more fair to them because they did have a couple pretty good chances. But
although I do wonder what the XG was on that Diogo Jota chance.
It was high. Yeah, and sorry, I was getting my games mixed up, distracted earlier, but that was the one I was thinking of. It was like 60% or something like that. I heard people kind of defending the miss, and I get it, but it's like, he's three yards away from goal. All he basically had to do was hit it somewhere towards goal with his knee or chest or something. But I mean, that's just to the point. Like, we were creating a lot. We've been creating a lot in every game so far, and it still kind of feels like we're flying under the radar a little bit, even though we're tied for first, which is a weird one because Hytham's giving the thumbs up. I agree. I mean, it still goes back to, like, the takeaway from that Chelsea match is almost like people were acting like Chelsea were the better team, and like we weren't good in the second half when we were 10, against their 10 men, but like, I still think we were overall the better team in that match. There were some flaws, but again, it's early season, and I'm fine if people want to discount us, but I'm feeling confident about us again, just like I was a couple of years ago.
So there is a lot of discounting going on, but I thought it was interesting. So I think, Hytham, you watch ESPN FC, and please tell me never to watch the show again, because last night someone asked a question of Craig Burley about, like, are you guys discounting Liverpool's chances? I was like, no, we've never done that. No, we've always had them in the top 4. I said, what? At the beginning of the season, one of you said, I'd be amazed if Liverpool won the league. and somehow that's not what they're saying anymore. So I don't know if they're discounting us quite as much as they once were.
My problem is Steve Warnock is falling into the ex-Reds pundit camp,
He-
like where he's
Yes.
unnecessarily critical of us. I think he said that Sadio Mane wouldn't score many easier in his career. I'm like, he had to cut it back
Yeah.
across the plane of his entire body on a tight angle. You absolute muppet.
That was not an easy finish.
No,
Yeah,
it was not.
that's why I mentioned that, Des. Like, because that's not an easy finish, but it's the type of finish that we would have expected Mane to finish 2 years ago. But like, I almost wondered if he was going to miss it this time. But anyway,
it was a lot harder than it looked, I think.
yeah.
Anyone who has played as a striker would know. And Stephen Warnock did not play as a striker. So let's move on. Or even Danny Murphy, who I'm sure had an opinion about it, which we don't want to know about. So I didn't believe you mentioned about the set pieces. Clearly, I think we've done a lot of work around corners this year because there's just like too much going on. And I haven't read it, so I don't know if anyone has. Paul Tompkins was talking about like a couple of things they did yesterday where Konate was kind of playing like a blocker for Van Dijk to get to headers. It's probably something to look out for. But
Let me go back and look at it. But that one that Mane scored on, there was something interesting they did where the Salah got wide open, and it was almost like they were shocked at how open he was. He like, I have to go back and see it, but he like ran around the side or something like that. Kind of.
I can tell you what happened. He was being marked by MacArthur, and what he did was he ran towards the block of players, but then went left, and MacArthur had nowhere to go, so he had to go like around all of the players. And if you look at it back, like MacArthur's got his head in his hands before Mane puts the ball in the net. It's really interesting. It's really
It was a great delivery too. Simicus, he's great on the set pieces and his crosses. I thought there were a couple that we didn't create great chances or scored, but just really smart. There was one where he kind of lofted it over the top because probably would have been blocked if he had not done that, and he hit Salah on the back post, and it didn't come to anything. But I just thought, man, like he's a good player. It's good to have him in the rotation. So
imagine how much better he's going to be with a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, we're probably rapidly running out of time because
us go.
Do want a quick round? Yeah, well, you can talk about other people if you want. We can talk about. So I guess we're not going to get to the issue about fans at the Etihad, or maybe someone wants to talk about that. But I think we got a not quite as big a week coming up, because I don't know about you, but I'm not really too bothered about Norwich on Tuesday. But I don't think we need to be ready for Brentford on Saturday, given their results so far. So Sean Costello, I'll kind of go with you. Yeah, feel free to talk about low crowds at the Etihad, because we always love that as a topic. But if you want to talk about the Reds and their upcoming fixtures as well, that's cool too.
I think, I do want to comment on something that like system versus stars and how people are saying like Liverpool's getting discounted a little bit. I feel like our stars aren't like fresh enough now. Like they were so big for everybody when we first got on the scene, and now all of a sudden, Ronaldo comes in here, Chelsea brings people in, and they're drawing in all these new people, and it's kind of like, oh wow, Liverpool haven't brought anybody in, but they've brought people in that fit their system, right? And now that there's some depth to it, I much prefer it, to be honest. I think when you try to bring too many guys in and fit them into different spots, and now they're having to play off one another. I think Man United, with all the talent that they have, those guys could have a hard time working with one another for a while. And I enjoy the fact that we've done some development through the youth academy, and we've brought some younger guys in. I know that might not be to your question, except that some of those guys are going to get in this week now, and I think that is the biggest thing for them to get some first team time, because Harvey going down, people go down all the time, and if these guys have had enough first team experience, it's not going to be as difficult for them to hit their stride. So the discounting thing, I think, is real, and I do think we're somehow flying under the radar, ish, right? Some other lower clubs would be like, give me a break, but I do think that people are begging for big signings, and I think it could have been good to bring in maybe a little bit more depth, but I think you're seeing what they did is working right now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think I'm excited to see KD Gordon actually on Tuesday. If he, I'm assuming he's going to play, especially given Harvey Elliott's not available. So, yeah, no, I think that's a good shout. I do think present bias, we've talked about this before, is a big thing. That's like, and of course, Ronaldo scored 3 goals. Oh no, I mentioned it. I didn't mean to, but that guy scored 3 goals in a couple of games. So of course, it's all going great. I did watch the game. I feel like they're going to come unstuck with that formation. But anyway, that's just me. Daz, where do you want to go? Brentford, Norwich?
Norwich, I think it's the cup that Klopp really cares the most about. So I'm pretty sure he's going to trot out every single one of our washed up stars and really go ask them to hit the straps for this one. But Brentford, I'm interested. I always love a plucky underdog, and I caught some of their game against Wolves. They kind of remind me of Hull a little bit when Hull were up all those years ago. They just play their system really well, and their one-touch balls, like putting it up through the middle, are exemplary. So they're built for a counterattack. I think that they understand it, that they're not going to be able to match all the teams that they're going to play, but they're going to win the games that they can win and try and sneak points from the ones that they probably don't think that they can. I think that my sense is that Brentford might actually lay a glove on us in the same way that Milan did. I think that we'll get too much into our own game and we'll leave a gap somewhere. And my sense is that Klopp might give a couple of guys a break against Brentford. Not necessarily because he's disrespecting them as an organization, but more because he's going to use that as an opportunity to rest some of the bigger guys. And I don't think they'll beat us, but I think they will lay a glove on us. And in some senses, my dad always said that humility sometimes is good for a squad, because you're only as good as your last game. And sometimes you need to get a smack on the schnauzer to let you know that there are still people that can do that, and they will. And it brings you and it grounds you. So I like Brentford. I think that they're a classy organization. Everything that I've seen so far, I think they probably should have come up last season. Mm-hmm. But again, I wish them all the best until such time as they take the field against us, and then they can get knotted. But I'm still interested to see them play. I don't care too much for the EFL, to be honest. And all those people that seem to vaunt it as a cup, I'm like, is that the Carabao Cup? Is it the same garbage, or is
I have no idea what it's called.
Still named that?
I don't
Carabao.
know. Is it still Carabao? Don't know.
Yeah, it's Carabao.
It's like, to me, it's Pep Guardiola's cup. He can have that every time. Don't really care.
You can share with the 6 guys in the stadium.
Maybe Chelsea will compete with them this year.
Right. There'll be an underfilled Wembley for the final, and they'll after somebody. Yeah. Anyway,
you get a cup. You get a cup. You can have the cup.
Gonna turn to you. Well, we could obviously go down the Pep path, or we could just kind of wrap it up in terms of, actually, I think Norwich are in big trouble. They lost to Watford yesterday. They've got no points.
Yeah.
So
I think they're going to go down eventually. I think Norwich is the Sheffield United of this season, which is, that's their ambition, is to basically live in between the 2 leagues.
The parachute payments.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Which is fine, but so I think just like you guys, I'm not worried about the AFL. I'm just happy that Liverpool is going to be playing twice, or 3 times, during the week or whatever. So fuck your international break. Just wanted to say that out loud.
Tick the box.
Yeah. But yeah, looking forward to watching some youngsters play on, is it Tuesday or Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday, sir.
And the other thing that I'm looking forward to is I just feel like our midfield options are kind of thinning. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there, from a solutions perspective. Elliot is out, and now Thiago is injured. I'm not sure how long he's going to be out. So that's I'm just interested in seeing how they're going to work around that, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe they put Talki in the middle or something like that. I'm not sure, just in case if something else happens, because Milner and Hendo, they're kind of older now, and the past couple of seasons they've been getting injured a lot. Hendo was out, I don't know, the last few months of the season, and Milner was in and out. So just like I said, to me, it's interesting how we're going to get around that, our thinner midfield. But yeah, looking forward to just watching the matches. Brentford, I think will beat them. Daz talked about their grit and all of that, but no, I think we're gonna figure out a way to beat them. I don't think it's gonna be an easy game, but I don't think it's gonna be too difficult either. And I hope I'm not gonna have to eat my own words Saturday.
It's what we're going to have to work for sure. I think, by the way, on Tuesday, there are a bunch of the youth team and the under 23s who are available. So in addition to Katie Gordon, I think there's one of Kane or Clarkson did not go out on loan. He's got Owen Bradley. So I think there are a bunch of people that we will see on Tuesday, which means, we're not going to see Milner and Henderson, and maybe we'll see Taki, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be too difficult to pick a team that doesn't involve most of the people who will be involved on Saturday. So
I feel like they could do a parody of that Snickers ad for Jurgen Klopp or something like EFL. Nobody gives a shit about that cup anymore. Move!
What I have half a memory that he was on either the German or the English Snickers commercial doing that very same thing.
3-5-2,
Yeah.
Oh, but the formation, was that what it was?
Yeah. The football table.
Good stuff. So Sean O'Neill, Brentford, or maybe you want to talk about Pep, whichever works.
I want to talk about a lot, but I know we don't have too much time. I don't want to go too long. But the Norwich match, I'm hoping to see a lot of youngsters. Otherwise, I'm not really too bothered by it. Brentford, the interesting thing about Brentford, as you mentioned this earlier, is that we have Champions League away on Tuesday at Porto, and then we have Man City. So that's all kind of in the same week. So I think it won't surprise me if you're right there in terms of we might rotate more than most might think for Brentford, because I think we'll want to get that win at Porto, because that puts us in. If we can win at Porto, that puts us in the driver's seat for advancing in the group. So yeah, that'll all be interesting to see. And to Hytham, to your point, I think it will be interesting to see how we manage minutes for. I mean, in my mind, it's like Milner, Henderson, and Virgil in particular, because Henderson and Milner are both kind of getting older, and Henderson's coming off another major injury, and Virgil's coming off the injury. So we got to be careful we don't play these guys too much and get them re-injured. I mean, maybe later in the season, but and I think they've done a great job doing that so far, just kind of being careful and rotate people in. But it'll be interesting to see who's selected for Brentford. Yeah, and the Pep thing, I mean, I think most people have probably seen it's kind of hilarious that they can't fill their stadium. And now there's this like animosity between Pep and the City fans because he's begging them to fill the stadium. It's just like, yeah, I don't know what to say about it other than that, like, you can't build a club artificially. Although, in my mind, Chelsea's kind of done that over the years. So I mean, maybe eventually they can, but it is just kind of hilarious that City's having these issues. And Pep's getting the backlash from their own fans because they can't fill their own stadium. It's just, you know, that's funny.
So if you subscribe to The Athletic, I thought there was a hilarious piece. I mean, he didn't mean it hilariously, by a guy called Sam Lee, who's the Athletic writer for City. And he began with, the digs about the empty had are wearing thin. And my favorite comment, like underneath his article, was like, no, they're not.
Depends on what point of view you're coming from, I guess. Yeah.
With the
Like I don't get tired of all the endless ribbing that's going on Twitter as well. They've got the one with that what's it with, like you put that hand pushes the coins off, and one of the things is the other one was like, I don't like, I'll fight all 6 of the fans. Pep Guardiola.
Sorry, I was watching the highlights from their match yesterday, and it was like, I don't know, it wasn't the beginning or halftime or whatever, but I mean, you can tell that, you know, sections and sections are empty.
Yeah.
And of course their seats are blue, and if you're you know, you would think that, you know, it's they're gonna blend with whoever is there, but they don't. You just see empty spaces, and I'm just like, that's crazy.
So a lot of the comments in this article were about, like, how do they claim this stadium has been full for 5 years? Because you watch it on TV anyway. So
yeah.
And the reason is because of all those Norwegians who follow Liverpool. That's the reason why Liverpool Anfield is full all the time.
I want to
is how thin-skinned their fans are about it. They're
Yeah.
incredibly thin-skinned about it.
Yes, which is why it's not tiresome yet to stop on the empty had bandwagon. Right.
What's the capacity, by the way, of their stadium?
50-some thousand.
Yeah,
So
I think that's
similar to Anfield.
Yeah. They claim to have had 97% full for Premier League over the last 5 years.
I think they've been getting 38,000, right? Like they're getting under 40,000. So there's a lot of empty seats.
There's a whole different narrative about
Yeah.
why they don't go to Champions League games. You should read the Sam Lee article and then have a look at some of the comments. So I guess we had to end on Pep and City and the crowd issues. We play them in a couple of weeks. It's going to be a really big game.
But fingers crossed that Naby and or Thiago are healthy for that match. I guess, you know, to Hytham's point with Thiago being out injured, I think we're going to be leaning on Naby for a little bit until he can come back. So
they play Chelsea Saturday, though. That's going to be another good game.
Yeah. So is Thiago definitely out? Do we know?
Well, so Klopp's it's not clear right now. You know, the club hasn't been clear about the injury status for a few years now. Klopp's comments, he said, we hope it's only a couple weeks.
Oh,
is what he said. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. It was a calf injury apparently, but you know, so hopefully it's not one of these that lingers on.
Yeah. So I won't even go into what I thought that was about, and I was hoping it wasn't going to be that long. But so Sean Costello, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll leave you with the final word. Any kind of thoughts about where we're headed from here?
I think one thing just you brought up with Thiago being out, I'm actually, I have a lot of faith in Naby. So I kind of I may be on my own in that. I don't know how much people enjoy watching him or don't enjoy, but when he I feel like if he could get a couple of consistent games under his belt, like early in the season, and I'm excited to see what he could do with a regular first team, because I love his driving runs forward, and I thought his passing last 2 matches he's been in has been a lot better. So I'm just excited. First of all, thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed my experience overall with the supporters, but this was a cool little twist that I didn't anticipate. So I appreciate you guys having me.
Well,
look on Naby's face when he scored.
Yeah.
It's essential. You can get fucked and all of you.
Something actually went right for me. Yeah, it's like, I love Naby. I mean, I'm like as much of a fan. It's just he just he can't get any luck since he's been at Liverpool. I mean, it just everything just seemed to not as go his way. So yeah, if he ended up getting a long run and could actually play without getting injured or something weird happening to him, I would love that. So yeah.
So I think historically we've been if you look at the stats, he's been a lot better for Liverpool than people would have you believe. So I think we're probably more believers than most people. So, okay, thank you so much for everybody to joining us today. If you enjoyed the podcast, share it with a friend. Follow us on Twitter. Even though we mentioned that guy a couple of times, we're still not tweeting about him. That's the publicity hound from Manchester, in case you missed the reference last week. Thanks so much, everybody. See you next time.